Hey everybody, welcome to Ronline Report. Today's guest, one of the fastest rising pros out of the New England area, carrying on the proud tradition of past New England greats like Jay Cutler, Paul DeMeo, Mike Matarazzo, Jose Raymond. Please welcome Nasty Nate Spear. What's up?
What's up, guys? How we doing? Thanks for having me on, Ron.
Just saw you at the Cutler Classic a couple days ago. You were sitting there with all your meals packed, and you're running backstage. You had clients in the show, taking care of
Yeah,
business, and that's it. That's the bodybuilder life, man. I'm
right.
curious, how
Burn
many meals?
calories.
How many meals did you eat that day at the show?
Like five. Yeah,
Nice,
it was
well
a busy
done,
day
man.
for sure.
So I want to do this chronologically. I'm going to start last year at the Boston Pro. So that was your pro debut. You had won
Yep.
nationals in 2021, correct?
hmm
So, first of all, what improvements had you made from nationals to pro debut at the Boston Pro?
So I came in like probably 4 pounds heavier, but I think it was like the same. It was just more fullness because we had already dug myself into that hole for nationals, where that's the initial fat loss phase, right? So we had got that initial fat off. So then from there, we were able to sort of reverse diet, if you will, because there was a 12-week stretch to Boston. So we were pretty smart about that as far as like, try to get the best rebound we can in 12 weeks. Obviously, being coming off a show, you're like sort of hypersensitive to, to food and, all that kind of stuff. So I responded really well, kept it pretty clean. I mean, had some cheat meals here and there, obviously, but for the most part, it was pretty strict, regimented. And I just, obviously, there was a lot of fear, not a lot, but I mean, there was a little bit of fear as far as like, just coming off of nationals, going to Boston, especially it wasn't just any pro show. You had Bonac and Samson and Steve Kuklo and Phil Clark and Regan Grimes and Max
Yeah,
Charles, but to name a few.
yeah.
So it was one of those things, I guess, size wise, I was like a little concerned, because obviously I just turned pro and I was like 241, 242 at nationals and 5'10. So, it's like, but I mean, I was able to fill out and improve from nationals to Boston. And I think a lot of people like the fullness that I brought because for me, I'm nasty Nate because I get in the nasty conditioning, but it also comes time, sometimes it pays a price as far as coming in maybe a little bit of flat because the conditioning that I'm trying to bring, you're going to be a little flat. You know what I mean? So it's one of those, but I think for me, my it's just sort of finding that fullness balance. So I think Boston was one of my actually probably better looks, maybe not my most sharpest, driest look, but I think well rounded all together. And I think that's what they want in like the pro stage, like it was like the same idea with Hottie this year, when, a lot of people are like, well, he's obviously drier and stuff like that previous years, but now he comes in bigger, fuller and gets rewarded, So sometimes it's going against your sort of own uh pride or favoritism, I guess, because for me, I've always been a conditioning guy, so I like getting dry. I like my favorite look is when I wake up in the morning super flat, but I'm dry. So like I like all the details there.
Yeah.
So because like my flat isn't like sometimes people get flat and they get like spongy soft, but my muscle is pretty dense. So my flat is still, I have like dense striated muscle. It's just not like as poppy, you know what I mean?
I remember, Dorian Yates told me every Olympia he ever won, he was flat, but he was pushing condition. To him,
Right, right.
condition was that was the ultimate goal. He wanted people to see his kidneys pumping through the skin of his lower back, which
Yeah.
I'm not sure we ever actually saw that, but that's a good way to think about it. So, did you get feedback from, I know you and your coach Andrew Berry probably looked at the pictures and videos, but did you also seek out feedback, judges, like, what do you want to see from me next time?
Yeah, so it's pretty much when I talked to Steve, he was pretty much like more legs, more back. But I mean, you know how Steve is. He's pretty dry and he's an old school guy. He wants like big legs, big back, hard grainy conditioning, that kind of stuff where, maybe some other judges are more worried about arms and stuff. But I think Steve's sort of that old school kind of guy. He wants big backs and big legs and gnarly muscle. So that was sort of his feedback. I mean, obviously, I sort of knew that at that point because, I mean, for me, I'd always been struggling to bring my legs up comparably to match my upper body. So, a lot of this stuff, I always felt like too, I had a pretty good bodybuilding IQ, and that's obviously I had pretty good genetics. But the guys that I'm competing with, I think, have better genetics than me. But I do think I have a pretty good bodybuilding IQ as far as figuring out ways around to keep making progress because I do make progress pretty much just about every year. I mean, it was harder when I was younger because I started chasing that pro card. So I would do a couple national shows and how that sort of goes. So, but now I had a full year off. Boston was in March. So I was really happy with that though. And honestly, it gave me a lot of confidence because I felt like a lot of people, the feedback was sort of like, yeah, he held his own. He didn't look like he didn't belong, or he didn't look small or anything. Obviously, there's still a lot of room for improvement, but I think a lot of people were on the other side of the spectrum, surprised that or like I look better than maybe they thought I would have. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was a good sign for me as far as I'm on the right path. And I actually got a lot of feedback. Like that was good. Like when they were commentating, like Bob and even Phil Heath, were like saying some pretty praiseful things that I was pretty surprised to hear. So that was pretty cool. And guys like yourself, and Jose, they're sort of, I'm pretty impressed by your work and you keep getting better. And, those kind of things, so help instill some confidence in me. I've never been the most confident bodybuilder. I've never been the guy that's like, any show I enter, I'm gonna win. Like I'm pretty realistic as far as what I want to do, and I know that there's a long game involved. So for me, if I went to every show trying to win, I feel like it would make me. I think a lot of people get burnt out because their expectations are so high. It's good to have expectations, but I think some people can't handle that when they don't reach set expectations. Almost, I've always been a type of guy where I keep my keep my standards low, so I'm always satisfied.
Under promise and over deliver. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, how many people had it? I think what the shirt said, Nasty Nate. There was a full flock of them at the show. How many people you think were there for you personally that you knew?
I mean, there must have been probably at least like 50 or 60 people there,
Yeah, it was a
which is
lot.
pretty cool. I mean, I got a lot of pictures of people with the shirts and stuff, and it was obviously pretty special to me because if I went to Chicago and did a pro debut and they said, and Nate Spear, it would have been like, you know, because no one really knows who I am yet in that scene, across the board. So for me to go out there and my mom was there and, I had a pretty loud ovation was really nice. So, and honestly too, it sort of worked out so perfectly because the Boston, obviously we know stinks, but one and done as far as we know to this day. But, so for me, I feel very lucky and blessed because I know even a guy like Jose, I mean, shit, like, if he would have had just an ability to do that one show once, it probably would have been very special to him. Obviously, being the Boston Mass and what you know what I mean. So, for me, out of all the Boston guys or New England guys, just be able to do that show and have a great experience from it, is really, really grateful for that for sure.
Yeah, that very well might be the only Boston Pro to ever be held, the one that was in
Right.
2022, because they were supposed to put it on in 2020, 2021. Both times it never happened. And now
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, obviously selfishly, I want to see it come back.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do
we
too,
had
but
everyone there had an amazing time, and everyone's feedback was that was amazing. It was great, and I think pretty much everyone wants it to come back. It's just, obviously promoting is a lot of money. There's a lot of losing money, I'm sure, and that kind of stuff comes involved.
I don't know how much he spent on that show, but it had to
Yeah,
be. He blew a ton of money.
yeah,
They had that whole VIP room with the influencers and
yeah,
just the lighting, the staging. It was very, very well done. My hat's
yeah.
off to him, David. But I don't know if we'll ever see that show again. So when that show was over, you would prep for nationals and you had 12 weeks. At that point, was there even any temptation to keep on doing and do another pro show in the springtime, or was it by that time was your body just done?
I probably could have, but I guess I just wanted to get to the improvements very quickly because I did, I did just come off the turning pro, so I knew like there was still a lot of improvements to be made and sort of a lot of room to grow. So part of that was sort of hey, I want to do this Boston show, but then I really do need to start on as far as like growing goes because I am 36. I mean, my training years are pretty young. I would say I'm very healthy as far as how my body feels and all that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
obviously we know that's not a whole lot of time to sort of capitalize on sort of what I'm doing. So part of that was that reason too. So now I feel like I do got to be a little picky as far as what shows I pick and that kind of stuff as far as maybe like how I place and, instead I guess when I was younger, I felt like I could waste a little bit of time doing maybe shows, not that I wasn't supposed to be doing, but more like for fun, right? Like, cause I do love competing and I'm the type of guy I can compete for a while. I feel like I can hold my look. So it was actually funny because before, they got rid of the point system, my whole goal was actually to get to Olympia on points because I knew I could compete a lot and sort of hold my look. And now obviously that's gone. But I mean, that's honestly, it's pretty funny because I felt like that was the only way I could actually like qualify for Olympia. But now I'm actually having some confidence in myself and seeing some I guess glimmer of maybe I could be a guy that was winning pro shows in the future.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
somebody's got to win. Why not you? Where I look at it.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's what Dorian always said, right?
so after that, you and Andrew Barry, your coach, you must have set out a game plan. So what did that look like? Did you change anything major about your training or your nutrition, or just keep doing what you had been doing and continue making progress in the right areas?
Pretty much. I mean, keep doing what we've been doing. The training changed a little bit to more, I would say, like recovery rest days. So there's some days, some weeks I would be training 5 days, and then weeks I'd be training 4 days. So it was like sort of on a rotation. So one week was five, four, and then back and forth. So that way I had that was sort of what I found my recovery was best, and I felt like I was really growing and staying strong and healthy in the gym. For me, I found that like maybe training a little less has been, especially as the more mature and stronger and heavier, and your body just requires way more recovery. Especially now, I'm getting to like a pretty big size. It definitely, I can tell it's a big difference. Just and getting body work done at every other week, it's like a must now. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is. I guess once I got to like, well, I would say probably like last year when I got to like 240 stage weight, that's when I could tell a difference. Like, okay, I'm like getting to a pretty muscular size where I have to sort of be more all on top of like my body and recovery and that kind of stuff. Whereas like when you're sort of younger and lighter, you can sort of get by, with that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, because you're really not doing as much muscular damage when you don't have as much muscle, I think.
right. And I think
Um,
too, when people guys that are at the pro level, like are really in tune with their body. So they're getting more bang for their buck as far as like the lifting. So for me, I could go do a squat, and then you could take someone that's been training for 2 years and do a squat, and I probably could optimize way more muscle groups, or you know what I mean, the whole leg as far as like what I want to target is compared to like maybe them, not knowing all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? After years of training, so I do think we can get in there and be more effective as far as and quicker. You know what I mean? As far as what we want to do, as far as training wise. You know what I mean?
the weeks where you only train 4 days, I mean, it has to be tough for anyone that really loves training. And obviously, you love training, or you wouldn't be sitting here right now talking to me. Is it tough? Is it tough taking that many rest days, even though you know it's beneficial, your body needs it? Still, it's got to be tiring. I want to be at the gym. I want to be lifting right now.
Yeah, it's definitely tough for me. I mean, I like being in the gym. It's a lot of fun, especially in the off season. You're strong. You're sort of you want to be in the gym. But I would say I definitely noticed like my pumps were insane a little bit with a little bit more rest, and like my strength was even better because of it. So I guess it just made me more excited to get in the gym, I guess, because I had all this sort of I felt really fresh every time I was going in and training. So it was even like more, and obviously not training as frequent, you're a little bit more excited to get in there, I guess. So that was nice. And then, I mean, the food we were able to eat a little bit more this year, just because this is my first full off season, working from home, being a full time online prep coach or whatever. So that was a huge help because I didn't miss any meals because there's no excuse, you know what I mean? Whereas before, I'm running around, I was working in a restaurant, and sometimes, you get a Friday night, you might not be able to do anything for 4 hours, you miss a meal and it's like, okay, like, what do you do? So, um, the food was definitely for me, like I have a pretty good metabolism. So I feel like my progress is conducive on how much food I can eat. So like, I don't like, I could eat like 7,000 calories and probably, I'd get a little soft, but I wouldn't like get like super fat, you know what I mean? But obviously I can only eat so much. So it's pretty much figuring out for myself, how can I pretty much get the most calories in, you know what I mean? Because I do really just I just notice like when my calories are higher, it just is like is a positive response because I guess like I guess I mean when you're a pro, like most of these guys, have really good genetics and we don't really get fat because we have so much muscle now. So, I think it changes over time as far as what you can and can't do and how you can and can't do stuff. I mean, obviously it's not quite as healthy using cheat meals, but it definitely made a big difference, I think, as far as putting on some stage weight this year because I was just able to eat way more calories, you know what I mean? And I wasn't getting fat and my insulin sensitivity wasn't really getting shut down or anything. So, definitely the food I would say played a huge role. I'll say like this too, like as far as like, you know, like gear and stuff like that. It never really changed, honestly. Like I've been doing the same thing for the past, you know what I mean, 5 or 6 years. Like there's not like new things that are getting added in or, any special kind of stuff. It's all the same stuff I've been using since like 2016, 2017. And pretty much the same amounts, honestly, because like
Mhm.
you can't really just keep, I think sometimes people are like, I never really got that whole theory of like, oh, well, every time you do something, you got to do more. It's like, not, it doesn't really work like that because, people have gotten progress off of like smaller cycles and bigger ones. You know what I mean? So I don't really
Yeah,
think
I
that's
definitely agree with that. But I also wonder, I mean, 2016, what do you stage weight were you competing at 7 years ago?
like 215.
215. So you put on about 40 pounds of muscle basically since then. Would
Yeah.
you say that's
Yeah.
reasonable?
Yeah.
I mean, I would assume, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not a PED expert, don't claim to be, but I would assume it takes a little bit more in terms of dose for somebody who's got 40 pounds more muscle at the same height to continue seeing results, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, I'll say, I mean, my testosterone got a little higher. It went from like 600 to 1,000. So, I mean, that's pretty much like the extent I would say, but all the other stuff, I never really brought it up much higher, I guess. Um, Not by a huge margin, at least. I mean, I will say, like, obviously, as you get a little bit better and stuff like that, you start getting your hands on like quality growth hormone and that kind of stuff. And that will say will make a difference for me. So I don't want to be like that guy that's gonna like BS anyone, but I would definitely say, I mean, it's hard because, people do want to obviously believe the easier route, but I mean, food is just so crucial. It's after you actually do it and you get to a certain point, it's like been proven over and over again to you. You know what I mean? How powerful food can be. Obviously, I think you need some kind of genetics because sometimes people will be like, well, just eat like as much. Like I've heard pro bodybuilders that are like, you can't be scared to get fat, but it's like, well, your fat is much different than the average person's or like
Yeah.
the person that's, trying to win their first class win at the Cutler Classic. They're just going to get fat and like out of shape. And then they're never going to be able to
Right.
get in shape for a prep. So
Right. Hmm.
obviously, when you talk about this kind of stuff, people got to realize obviously the level of physique things change and you can sort of it's not quite the same, you know what I mean? Like I was saying when I first started bodybuilding, like maybe if I was eating all that food, I would have just got really sloppy. And I did get sloppy like in the beginning and like I wasn't even eating as much food, but like over time you just every off season gets a little bit better and better, like as far as body composition and the way you sort of can digest and absorb food, I think.
Yeah, you know what? I can't remember. I just had this conversation with somebody recently about, food is the most anabolic thing. And yeah, obviously gear plays a role in everything. But when you tell people that food is more important, they laugh. But I think deep
Yeah.
down, it's because it's a lot easier for anybody to just bump up a dose of something than it
Right.
is to put all that food down your throat every single day, especially if
Right.
you're the one that's got to cook it. You got to make sure you're not missing those meals. Six, some I know guys eat like 7 meals a day. That is work. That's
Yeah.
that's. I mean, for you to get 7,000 calories and the majority of it is clean food, that is a lot
It's
of
a lot of work.
food. A
It's a
lot
lot
of
of
food.
time, a lot of time too. People don't realize because like everything slows down, right? So we're eating our meals are taking, 20, 30 minutes, spend times that by 6 or 7.
Yeah,
That's a lot of eating, or
yeah,
time at least,
yeah.
you
But
know.
so the online coaching thing, I think that's like the ideal. If ideally you just have some supplement sponsor throwing money every month, nice fat
Yeah,
check. You
yeah.
don't have to do anything.
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
golden the
Right.
dream. But if you have to work, I think online coaching is the way to go because I'm guessing you can sort of make your own hours. People are these people hounding you like 24 hours a day on text messages you got to get back to them, or can you sort of just respond to messages and emails as the day goes on so you don't interfere with your meal schedule and your training and everything?
So I'd say it's a mix. So I can do usually what I do is I wake up and do my first chunk of emails, whatever, 10, 15, and then I'll go and train and then I'll get some, emails and check-ins coming in throughout the day. And then, sometimes I get people at night sort of bugging me, with questions or I'm pretty easygoing as far as like being, communicative with my clients and letting them sort of text me. As long as obviously, I mean, sometimes you got to have a boundary and say, okay, like you can't be texting me at 8 o'clock Sunday night when, you could have wait till tomorrow to ask me this simple question. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, it's been awesome for bodybuilding because I just been able to, I can nap, I can get naps in, obviously. I can eat when I need to. I can train at the same time every day. So now I train at like 11 a.m. every day. Um, get a couple meals in. So my energy is like 100%. It's really been a big difference for sure. And, being able to go to all the shows every weekend now has been a huge help because before I was working in a restaurant, so I really didn't get weekends off. So, I really didn't get out to go to all the shows and that kind of stuff. And so now I'm able to travel more and sort of, you know, mix and mingle a little bit. So that always helps the brand.
So, a lot of guys don't get into the coaching until they've retired from competition themselves. There are some guys that do it while they're still competing like you, but when you do it the way you're doing it, um, I ask these guys when they're retired, you get a similar level of satisfaction from helping these people reach their goals. And they're doing it in retrospect, but you're still working on your own goals. Do you get a similar level of satisfaction helping somebody win their first contest, or maybe a lifestyle client losing 80 or 100 pounds as you do from, you making like top five at New York Pro or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really exciting. I mean, I just had a girl that, we worked the full year together. She made tremendous improvements, and she came in and won, the main overall in bikini, and she looked stellar, and she was just so happy and excited. And I know how bad she like wanted it. So, and she was ready. And so that was an amazing feeling. And, obviously there's some people that you might grow a little bit closer to than others because just, maybe you just similar personalities. And then I do have a lot of people in the local area that I coach, and then I have a lot of people online too. So obviously some people online, the relationship doesn't get quite as tight unless they stay with you for a long time, and the small talk conversations slowly build into, maybe something where you guys get a little bit closer after like 6 months or something. But, the people that are obviously local, I'm able to go to their shows. I'm able to see them at my gym, that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit better rapport there. But I will say, yeah, I mean, it's very exciting. And I love, there's a couple times where, you're just peaking someone, everything is going perfectly, and you're able to like, manipulate some things, and it's a lot of fun, and everything sort of comes together. And I think that's a lot of fun for sure. I mean, I have lifestyle clients, but I will say definitely the competing competition clients are more rewarding. Like I would love to be a guy that has like goes to the national shows and, has like 5 or 8 clients at all these national shows. Like that would be something I'd be really into and passionate about. Like once I'm done bodybuilding, I mean, like I'm coaching a decent amount of volume, but I think it obviously requires, I think it's more hands-on when you start getting into like national guys and, top level, pros and that kind of stuff. Cause they're going to want more out of you because there is more requirement at that level. You know what I mean? So there's more fine tuning and, oh, this little box and that little box and this little box. Whereas like, obviously, at the Jay Cutler Classic, it's like, okay, let's just get in shape, and get some good posing in there. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff where obviously it gets a little bit more intricate each level you climb. So as a coach at that level, I think it does require more, involvement. If someone's, getting ready for nationals to turn pro, like that's a pretty big deal to me, so responsibility. Um, so yeah, I would say when I get out of bodybuilding, I definitely want to pursue it more and, be known as a good coach.
It's cool that you say that, because I've talked to a lot of guys who have a large number of clients, and I have heard some of them say they prefer the lifestyle clients just because they're not as demanding and they're more satisfied with, you help a woman lose 50, 60 pounds after she had
Yeah.
a baby. She's so grateful. I mean, she's like on over the moon. Or some
Right.
guy who's never had any muscles, you get him some chest, some stomach, he's like, wow, dude, Nate, you're the
Right.
best. But these other people, they have very high goals and
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
high expectations where, they want to turn pro, or maybe now you're going to coach a pro and they got to win a pro show,
Right.
and it's a lot more work. But it sounds like you're ready for it. So yeah.
I think as long as I have the right connection with these people, I mean, obviously you're gonna have the people that, are like when you said that, I thought of, there's a lot of people at that level where you don't produce the results and they're on to the next, without even giving you, you know what I mean, much of a talk or a second chance or even probably any talk. They just sort of leave, and next thing you know, they're like, oh, they're checking with Matt Jansen now, or whatever.
Go chopping. Coach on, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So at that level, obviously there's a little bit more of that. But I think just from all the coaching that I've done up to this point, I do feel like I have a really good connection with like certain people. So I have a lot of younger males on my team. And I
Mhm.
find like I have a really good connection there. Each coach I talk to has a personal preference as far as who they like coaching. Like a lot of guys I talk to like coaching middle-aged women because they just listen and they always pay on time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's
so for me,
hilarious.
I like working with the young guys because it reminds me of myself and I like to see them fall in love with bodybuilding and teach them the right way too. There's a lot of obviously, people are griping and that kind of stuff as far as like the new social media and influencer, tripod, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I like to be a role model to these guys and sort of show them like, okay, here's sort of the right way, the right etiquette, so that way I can sort of mold a couple of young minds. I mean, I have a lot of really solid young people. Like I got a 17-year-old, a 20-year-old, one of them, I think Mike, that Costco
Oh yeah,
Ollie.
yeah. Yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
he's a really hard worker, but 20 years old, you know what I mean? Never done a show, but trains like
Wow.
he's done a lot of show. It's really impressive, at that age to see some young men, getting after it and not worried about, their what they look like or their gym outfits, and they just come in there and sweat it out, grind it out, and they're grunting and stuff, and but with good form, like that kind of stuff is I like that.
Okay, I applaud you because most of us, me included, I just complain about the young people. I don't try to help them or educate them to be they're filming everything and they're doing one rep maxes on deadlifts every day and they got the bushy hair and the wah. Right? You're actually trying to make these people better members of the gym culture. Speaking of the gym culture, I don't know if you caught, I think you were backstage when this happened, but the
Oh
MC, yeah, the MC at the Cutler Classic says, I'd like to thank the title sponsor, Gym Hub, owned by a local IFBB pro, Nate Spear. I'm like,
yeah,
poor Nate Tello.
classic.
All the same. You Nates all look alike. But
Uh,
yeah. So New York Pro's coming up very, very soon. Obviously, because Boston Pro, did you pick it because it's kind of like our big regional show for the Northeast, or is the timing right? What made you pick New York Pro?
yeah, I think New York was always originally my original plan. Like in the back of my head, like okay, when I turn pro, like New York's probably one of the first shows on the agenda, just because obviously for a lot of us in this area, we like for me, I grew up driving to the New York Pro every year because it's the only show we have that's drivable. So, every year the New York Pro would come around, I'd drive down there with Andrew or a couple of friends, and we'd go down there, stay overnight, and watch the show. And it was just really exciting because I guess it was almost that nostalgia of back in the day where people are like, oh, well, you never get to see these guys and that kind of stuff. So it was the one pro show that, what I mean, I was able to sort of see these guys in person, at least until I got a little bit older and was able to go to like the Arnold's and whatever. But yeah, so and obviously, most of us, Steve is pretty big in our area and he promotes the show, and you sort of want to obviously look good for Steve. And then, I mean, yeah, it's just like, I mean, obviously it's very nostalgic being the New York Pro and used to be the Night of Champions. So it wasn't really necessarily timing. It was just sort of, it was a show that was always on my agenda. And it just sort of, it happened to line up. It did line up good timing wise as far as like a good off season because Boston obviously was March. So May, gives me a couple of, like a full year, you know what I mean, of an off season. So I think it was like perfect as far as what I needed for this off season, this time.
It's the third most prestigious show in the sport after the Olympia and the Arnold too. So if you do well, not to put any other shows down, but if you do well to New York Pro, you're headed for the
Right,
top because it's never an easy show.
right.
I'm curious. We got Cali Pro the weekend after that, and Toronto the weekend after that. Are you going to hit either or both of those? Or are you going to wait and see what happens in New York?
So my plan is to wait and see what happens, but Toronto is in the back of my mind. Pretty much in my back of my mind, I'm like, okay, if I get first call up top five, I'll go to Toronto. But if I don't, then it's sort of a waste of money. You know what I mean? So it's sort of, I'm just sort of seeing how I guess New York plays out. Unless I came in off or something and I was like, okay, I can make some small corrections and look way better. And then I was thinking about maybe even like, because I have a lot going on and coming on right after New York. So I was even maybe thinking about doing Vancouver. It's a little bit later, but like not necessarily stay shredded, but you know what I mean, like stay in like reachable range, and then reel it back in. You know what I mean? So because I do want to do more shows, it's just more of a timeline thing. Like we were talking before, and obviously, have some with the shows, and I have other clients. That gets hard too. Is like so I was actually going to do Orlando, but I have a client that's probably has a good chance of getting a pro card at Universe, so I opted to go to Universe instead for her. So, but
Same
and
weekend.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's the July 1st weekend.
Okay, gotcha. Hmm.
But yeah, Orlando would have been good. Um,
Chicago's a
but
couple weeks
obviously,
after that.
yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is now it's such a blessing because when I'd been competing for 3 or 4 years nationally and not doing any regional shows, and it was like I had 3 shows to choose from, and they're all spread out pretty sporadically. You know what I mean? So now it's pretty nice to I don't really have to worry. I guess I'm just like, okay, I can do this show and then sort of figure it out. I was ready for Puerto Rico. I signed up and everything, and then they canceled it. So, but I was ready to go for that. I had an Airbnb and everything. So,
This year
um,
they can't. This one's.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
they
that's right. I
canceled the
did hear
Puerto
that.
Rico. Yeah,
So
didn't really
now
say
that
anything why, but it just, but
yeah, it was never a big show. It was always just it
yeah,
was. They
yeah,
never had much of a turnout. I don't know why.
no, yeah.
It was a beautiful place. It looked like,
I know
but
that's what I'm saying. That's why I wanted to go, is because I was like, well,
yeah,
check off 2 boxes, Puerto Rico and a show,
yeah, it was
you
like
know,
right on the beach, nice resort.
right?
So now that you're dieted down, since the last show, you're able to really see what's improved, what's changed. When you look in the mirror now, I know the scale's up too, but where do you see the most improvements now?
Um, Probably, I mean, my quads and then my lats. So I would say my back improved quite a bit, and then also my quads improved quite a bit, and um,
Looks like you
I
kept the
think my
waist the same.
arms.
Yeah.
Yeah, my waist is pretty small. I would say I work really hard on it, honestly. Like I do vacuums like all throughout the day, and I also do like planks, and I do ab work just specifically for the mind muscle connection, not necessarily to build my abs, but just to help get my mind connected to that lower abdominal region, that sort of that pocket that sometimes guys have that stick out a little bit. So that kind of stuff I'm really trying to focus on. Like pretty much I look at Nick Walker and I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I have to be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like as far as what he's done with his waist, like obviously he puts on a lot of time and effort where there's guys that don't, you can see the difference. You know what I mean? So I think for me, that's something I stepped up to a lot this year, was just the posing and, core control and that kind of stuff.
I think I honestly think Classic and Bumstead is having a real influence on the
Oh
judging.
yeah.
It's hard you can't say that Arnold one show makes a trend. It doesn't. But I do
Yeah.
think they're expecting better aesthetics. That we haven't seen a big bubble gut win a show in many, many years now,
Yeah.
regardless of how the rest of the physique looks. But I think it's going to be more and more of an advantage to have a smaller midsection, as long as everything else is big and shaped correctly and all that. So you're doing it right. Even though I don't recall you ever having any kind of a gut. Even, I've seen you in the off
Yeah.
season. Even then, you didn't. You look pretty flat. But
Yeah.
let's change gears to something you told me before. You are leaving the Granite State, where the license plates say
Yeah.
"Live Free or Die." It's
Yeah.
the best license plate in the country, I think. And also, it's a no state income tax.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's pretty awesome. But you're moving to
Yeah.
where everyone from New England, the whole Northeast moves. Everyone
Yeah.
goes to Florida. So
Yeah.
what led to that decision? That's a big move.
Yeah. So, I mean, I always wanted to sort of get somewhere warmer, honestly. Like, I just didn't really have the availability to, or the funds or tools to sort of do that before. And then a couple options. I mean, one, my dad is down there, in Florida. He's 80. So,
Wow.
he's obviously getting towards, health and stuff like that. And then, my coach actually moved down there a few months ago and bought a property down there. So now they're down there. So it just sort of all sort of made sense. And obviously, in New Hampshire, there's not a whole lot of bodybuilding lifestyle. I feel like I've sort of maxed out sort of where I'm at as far as um no, I just think it's just got to be better all around, and obviously just warmer weather and no snow and that kind of stuff.
What part of Florida?
So it's in Largo, which is like right beside Clearwater, and Tampa's pretty
Oh,
close.
okay,
So
Tampa. I mean, that's
yeah, so when you're at, I'll be Tampa Pro will be right around the corner, so that's a possibility too. You never know, but that's a
yeah.
little ways away. But
I think that's one of the best. I'm sure Miami's good
oh,
too, but
that's
I
a good
think
one.
Tampa seems to be like the hot spot in Florida.
Yeah,
Florida's
yeah,
got a
definitely right now.
ton of bodybuilders, tons of great gyms.
Yeah,
Yeah, geez, every time I go down to Tampa, I think I look at a different gym and they're all great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Have you
crazy.
been down there? Is there a particular gym you're thinking about? Maybe this is where I'll train.
I'm not really sure, honestly. I honestly don't really. I know there's MI40 down there, but I don't know if I'd actually train there full time. It'd be probably like a every once in a while
Yeah.
type thing. I don't really like the whole like flashiness and like influencer type stuff. I like a gym with nice equipment and an atmosphere, but I don't want to be. I don't know. I don't like that whole like sort of flashiness and glitz and glamour and let's put on a show for. It's like we're at the gym. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like I know some people gotta they make money this way, but there's people that I think just it gets out of hand these days. You know what I mean? Like people with like microphones in the gym and stuff like that on their shirts. Like,
I
I
don't
don't
think
know.
most of them are making money, honestly. I think
Well, yeah, probably not.
they're doing it for likes, they're doing it for views and
Yeah,
followers, but yeah, I don't think I'd like to think they're all making money, but when I'm
right.
tripping over their tripods in the gym,
Yeah,
they sure. But yeah, um, that's awesome, man. So I guess that's it, man. I'm very, very excited to see the improvements. I follow you on social media, and you have been getting better and better, as I knew you would. You're a hard worker. You keep your head down. You're one of those guys that just grinds it out and gets better and better every season. And this is only going to be your second pro show. So, not a lot of, you're in a good spot because not a ton of people are expecting much from you. So
right.
again, you could over deliver. You show up looking
Yeah.
crazy and we're going to be like, oh my God, look at this guy, Nate Spear. Wow. You know?
Actually, yeah, it's actually better that way because it's like honestly, it's been this prep has been like so peaceful. I feel like I'm just sort of like in my own little like world, like, and I'm just sort of got my thing going on, and there's not a whole lot of outside noise, I guess. You know what I mean? Just sort of grinding, and it's just sort of I go to the gym, do my cardio, come home, and just sort of chill my dog, and it's pretty low key, low stress, so it's been pretty easy. And I do like, honestly, like, I mean, it's nice to get talked about, but sometimes when you're not talked about, it's easier because you're not really so worried about, expectations or, oh, I got to come in this way or that way. It's just sort of like, um,
You know
yeah,
what? When there's a lot of expectations on somebody, and I've seen this for decades now, even when if they win and they win decisively, people are like, well, he was supposed to
yeah, you
win
should have
anyway.
won. Right,
Yeah,
right.
he was going to win anyway. He was,
Yeah,
so it's not like it's you don't really they don't get that much praise for it. It's the guys that
right,
sort of come out of nowhere. Nobody was really expecting to do well that
right.
shock people. And those are honestly, as someone who covers a sport, to me that's so much more exciting. I'd
Yeah, yeah,
rather I'd
definitely.
rather break say this is the new sensation or the I hate to use
Right, right.
those words, but
No,
that's
I know you.
that's how it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
of course.
very much looking forward to seeing your second pro show. This is Nate
Yes, sir.
Spear 3.0, 4.0. I don't know which version, iOS version this is.
Yeah,
You're getting better and better all the time. Congrats on the online coaching. You're doing a bang up job with that. Had some good showings at the Cutler show and many other shows in the area, I'm sure. So I will see you in New Jersey for the New
yep.
York Pro very, very soon.
Well,
So,
I appreciate you having me on, brother.
oh, you're very welcome. So follow him on Instagram. Is it just Nate Spear?
Yep, at Nate Spear.
Nate Spear. You guys can figure that out, can't you guys? Nate Spear. Yeah.
Nothing fancy.
SPEAR. Yeah. So that's it, man. I'll see you. So thanks so much for doing this, Nate. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Best of luck with the last couple weeks of prep. And of course, to
Yes,
everybody
sir.
out there, subscribe to the channel if you like it. Hit the thumbs up. The little bell in the corner, hit that so you know we have videos coming out. Leave some comments below. We love your feedback. And that's it. Thanks for watching Ronline Report with this man, Nasty Nate Spear. We'll see you next time.
I guess.
Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.